And as you can see, I am going live this morning from my car. We got these car chronicles going on. And listen. I just could not get on here and talk about the breaking news. Like Bennie Thompson has officially jumped in it. You know how they say, my name is Bennie and I ain't in it. Well, Bennie Thompson said he's ready. And he is coming out swinging, and he's swinging for John Horhn. Now, there has been a lot of nasty talk in the Jackson area as it relates to Senator John Horhn. A lot of people just saying bad things, but guess what? He won over 80% of the votes that were cast on April the 1st, I believe it was. And so next Tuesday, April the 22nd, Bennie Thompson is telling his supporters, right? He's telling his supporters, the Jacksonians, the people who love Bennie, and a lot of people love Bennie, right? He's telling them, hey, go and vote for John Horhn. Now, we're going to be able to hear from a lot of people in the Jackson area. They love to say, oh, we don't listen to outsiders, but Jackson belongs to the whole state of Mississippi. You got to understand that's the state's capital, right? And so Bennie Thompson, who I like to say is the voice of reason when it comes to a lot of stuff happening in the state. Now, if you know me, you know I'm neither Democrat nor Republican. I identify as an independent personally, right? But to see that Bennie Thompson, and listen, if y'all know anything, you know Chokwe Antar Lumumba and the Honorable Congressman Bennie Thompson are frat brothers. Some people say, oh, well, what they got to do with anything? No. Finally, somebody is stepping up saying, hey, does it matter that you're my fraternity brother? It doesn't matter that we have the same letters and things like that. Finally, somebody is stepping up, and it just happens to be the Honorable Congressman Bennie Thompson saying, listen, they ain't got nothing to do with nothing. We want the better person in the position. Now, Chokwe Antar Lumumba, for those who don't follow the Jackson politics, he came in second place, right? Which gave him 16% of the votes. And again, if I'm thinking correctly, Horhn got over 80% of the votes, right? But anyway, this is the race to watch. Why do you say that, Angie? Because it's a lot weighing on this election. Now, I have seen in history's past where President Bush, check this out now, President Bush got involved in an election. Daddy Bush is what some call him. Got involved in a statewide election. And check this out, and you can go look at it. When David Duke was running, the first time I believe David Duke ran, and the president got involved, and he said, hey, y'all need to vote for the other person and not David Duke. Well, we saw what David Duke won, right? We also saw where his party, David Duke's party, turned against him. And at that time, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Duke went from being a Democrat to being a Republican. But anyways, the Republican Party went to backing away from him, saying, no, he's not the one, and da. But guess what? Even though the president reached way down and said, vote for the person I'm endorsing, the people voted for David Duke, and David Duke won. And so this here, again, is the race to watch. Why? Because when you have someone who's rooting for the person who's out front, generally, Now, this has just been my observation, and this is my commentary, and I'm going to tell it how I see it. Generally, in a case like this, when you see somebody like Shokwe Antar Lumumba, who's not being endorsed by the bigger person who's has the greater influence, they get sympathy votes. Oh, they shouldn't do him like that. This ain't right. That in itself will cause people, that will galvanize more people to come out and vote again. So this thing could go either way. I'm telling you, based on history's past, it has gone the other way, even with the popular endorsement. So again, this is going to be the race to watch because a lot of people are saying they are tired of the current administration. Then you got those who are saying, no, 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 no. We're not tired of the current administration. We just need some help. We just need people who are willing to work with the current administration. Well, some people say, well, you've had enough time to make some changes. And we're not seeing that. Check this out. Case in point, you're going to hear Bennie Thompson himself say why. And right here, let me read it what he says. But I'm going to play a video from John Horhn's YouTube channel. Says Congressman, I like to say the Honorable Congressman Bennie G. Thompson endorses Horhn in Jackson's mayor runoff. And in quote, it says, after listening to and discussing with John his vision and plan, I encourage the voters of Jackson, Mississippi, to support John Horhn on April 22nd in the Democratic primary runoff election. Mm. Bennie Thompson said, my name is Bennie and I am in it. So he has jumped in. And we're going to see in just a second. You're going to hear him say actually what pushed him. He's saying that there are some. Let me let him say it because I do it no justice.
Order of Senator John Horhn is based on his legislative record and the record of the current mayor. I've worked in both instances with both men in their respective capacities, and I'm convinced that John Horhn would be a better mayor for the city of Jackson. Well, first of all, you got to understand, as mayor, you are the principal spokesperson for the city. That means that whether you agree or disagree with individuals, you tell the story. You don't ignore the people who are in charge. Now, if you apply for programs and you're denied based on the fact that you're a Democrat or African American, then you fight. You go to court. You don't just take back and say, well, they're not going to help us. I've spent my whole political career fighting for what's right. So in Washington, if it's housing, if it's health care, if it's transportation, I always vote for those programs. But when it comes down to the state and local level, it's up to those officials to make application for the program. But my record is clear on all those things, and I'm saying there have been opportunities missed by Jackson, especially under the Biden administration, especially when COVID was rampant in this community, that should have been taken advantage of. Bennie Thompson can only vote for those programs, but it's up to the local officials to take advantage of them. On election day, on April 22nd, the billionaire and the homeless person, their vote counts the same. And so the only way you can lose this election is you don't go vote. So I encourage people on April 22nd, go out and cast your vote.
Now, I wasn't paid to play that, but I am proud to say that that is my fraternity brother who he is endorsing, right? But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Um, the Honorable Congressman Bennie Thompson did mention that there were some missed opportunities. And I'm just going to paraphrase it and say it for what I think it to be. He said, you don't not talk to the people in charge, regardless of if they're Republican, if they're Democrat. And I think that's why people love Bennie Thompson so much. because he is willing to reach across the aisle and to say that there was monies out there and they were not applied for, apparently, based on what I just heard. If there are some missed opportunities, that needs to be acknowledged by the current administration. But I don't know that they are willing to acknowledge the fact that they have missed some opportunities. And we're talking about a veteran in in politics when we talk about Congressman Bennie Thompson. Also, John Horhn is no rookie, right? He is no rookie. And people are watching from all across the state and weighing in on the fact that when we have to go to Jackson, we kind of dread going to Jackson because guess what? You're having to duck and dodge and all these potholes. I mean, and this is before you get to where you're going. You're hearing people talk about the Jackson Zoo. They barely have any exhibits. They barely have any animals. They barely have a people who are willing to go there and look at this. Listen, listen, listen. You got a young man out there right now who is shedding light, Brady Hightower, if I'm not mistaken. And I've been sharing his stuff, and you can go to the Mike magazine and see where this young man has really been calling out what is going on in Jackson. Now, again, I'm neither Democrat nor Republican. And, just to be a citizen of the state of this great state of Mississippi and see that our capital is subpar speaks volumes. But again, it just depends on who you ask. Because you might have people say, oh, we've made progress. And then, you have to get their definition of what progress is, right? But when we're talking about 8 years opportunity to get it right, regardless, and Congressman Thompson mentioned under the Joe Biden administration that opportunities were missed, right? This is a new administration. We're talking about opportunities missed under a Democratic uh, president. And on the local level, according to Congressman Thompson, he has no dog in the fight as it relates to people going to actually apply for what's available. Now, if the money is available, you don't just say, I don't want to apply because they're not going to help us, according to Congressman Thompson. You apply. And then he says, and that's how I feel. Apply for it. Let them deny you, right? But do your due diligence for the citizens. Apply for it. Congressman Thompson said a mouthful within 2 minutes. And this is based on his observation. And according to him sitting down speaking with Senator John Horhn, right? Saying, hey, man, listen, let me sit down with you and see what your vision is for the city of Jackson. And apparently he liked what he was saying, what he heard. And, again, people are saying nasty things about Senator John Horhn. But what you got to understand when it comes to politics and lawmaking and people who are the head honcho who are responsible for making responsible decisions, you have to be open. You have to be open for the greater good of the people, not because, oh, it's just a one track mind. This is what I want to do. It's going to cost you on the back end. On the front end, it could get you in, but on the back end, it could push you out, right? Because you've had 8 years to prove nothing against, you know, the current administration, but you've had a chance. I think it's feasible amount of time. And based on an interview that I've done with the current mayor, he told the Mike magazine he never wanted to be a career politician. But then we turn around and we find that he is running yet again. And guess what? He's not the only mayor to ever say it. He's not the only mayor to tell the Mike magazine, no, we're not going to run again. I don't want it. I don't want to run again. And then just to turn around and do opposite of what they said. When you have somebody like Congressman Bennie Thompson reaching across the aisle, knowing full well that you're responsible for answering back to your people, because right now I believe he's on a tour and he's supposed to be here in Greenville on the 24th of April. You have to answer to the people who are voting for you, even if they don't vote for you. Congressman Bennie Thompson understands the importance of still rendering up an answer. He has to answer. And that's how we should look at everybody across the board. What is your answer? Why did you do what you did? Why didn't you apply, for these uh, federal dollars? What was the reason why? And what I'm hearing him say is, you can't take this stuff personally, right? We got elections going on all across the state, and we're going to have elections up until November. The redistricting thing has made headlines. A lot of people are waiting to vote again in DeSoto County, Choctaw, and I think Forest County, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. But the redistricting, they had to redraw the lines to draw the black votes back in because the representation was not, how do you say it? It was not balanced. And so they were challenged by Senator Derek Simmons, who's the minority speaker for the state of Mississippi, if I'm saying that correctly. And he spearheaded all of that. And again, even Senator Derek Simmons has to reach across the aisles. He has to be able to stay level headed and not take things personally and see things for what they are and be able to, at the end of the day, answer back to the people in Washington County and the other counties he represents, right? And so elections are going on all across the state. Now, right here in Greenville, this is the race to watch. And for the record, I have stated to some, and now I will say to people who watch my platform, I am officially staying out of the race. My candidate did not win, who was Tarsha Parker, and I felt that she was the better candidate. But when I found out that other people were running, had I known before then, I would have probably asked her to just hold up because we have a great candidate right now running, a great candidate. And again, I'm just gonna stay out of it because that candidate does not need my help to win because that candidate is going to win, regardless of what people think. That candidate is going to win. Now, back to Congressman Thompson. We're going to play this video one more time so that you can hear him and what he is saying and why he is getting involved in this election. And I wouldn't be surprised if he got involved with the Greenville election.
Report of Senator John Horhn is based on his legislative record and the record of the current mayor. I've worked in both instances with both men in their respective capacities, and I'm convinced that John Horhn would be a better mayor for the city of Jackson. Well, first of all, you got to understand, as mayor, you are the principal spokesperson for the city. That means that whether you agree or disagree with individuals, you tell the story. You don't ignore the people who are in charge. Now, if you apply for programs and and you're denied based on the fact that you're a Democrat or African American, then you fight. You go to court. You don't just take back and say, well, they're not going to help us. I've spent my whole political career fighting for what's right.
And so he said, you don't just take that and say they're not going to help us. Now, he's basing this on his own observations, right? That nobody had to tell Bennie Thompson anything. He's looking at the track record. You ain't have to tell him anything. He's watching. You don't just not say they're not going to help us. Who are they? Okay, let's put some names and faces and stuff together. Well, we're just, for the sake of time, names. the Governor Tate Reeves. And it had been in the media really bad how toxic the relationship. I don't even know that it's fair to even call it a relationship between the mayor and the governor. The governor said some things that a lot of people don't like, but he said some sound stuff. He says some stuff that really makes some sense. And so, as a journalist, out there in the field, going to the press conferences, listening to the governor firsthand, hearing him himself, right? And able to ask him questions myself, Governor Tate Reeves says some reasonable stuff. And what we have to do is stop trying to push people away because they're Republican or because they're white or because they're black. We have to listen. At least listen. Now, if I'm wearing the hat of a campaign manager or something like that, you got to do what you got to do to try to win, right? But when I serve in the capacity of a journalist, you have to be fair. You should be. And we have those editorials out there where people get to say, or co-ed, however you want to say it. They get the opportunity to give their opinions. But when you're serving in the capacity of a journalist and you're getting both sides or all sides, however it may be, you want to be fair. I pride myself on being fair and asking those tough questions. A lot of people don't like when you ask the tough questions, but I am going to do that because nobody is going to tell me how to run my platform and how to be a reporter. I've been trained by some of the best. Okay, we got Chris Williams here who says it's very toxic because it's political partisanship crap by the mayor and the governor. Yes, and this hadn't just started, Chris. This has been going on, but what we don't want is this. We have a race, and Clay Edwards said the people who've been carrying Clay Edwards water for the past year or so. I don't like to say they're carrying the water, but these are the people who support the current administration. We have to be mindful that we don't throw everybody under the bus or throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to Senator John Horhn, because guess what? He's a likable person. How do you know that? Because the registered voters showed up and they put their names behind him. They endorsed him, right? Shokwe Antar has his people, and they're supporting him. This is going to be the race to watch. Now, I don't know. I might even go to Jackson on the 22nd just to see. You know, I know there should be watch parties. Somebody's got to lose. And so you have to brace yourself for the impact, right? You have to brace yourself for the impact. A lot of people don't like um, Congressman Thompson again, but I like to say that he's the voice of reason when it comes to a lot of things when it comes to decision making. Let's see here. We got Brittany Kemp weighing in. Thank you so much, Brittany. Says I voted for Horn is basically voting for another. What she said, I voted for Horn is basically voting for another Shokwe. Bennie Thompson needs to go too. The majority of Jackson wants a change, not same old stuff. Yes, we have heard these sentiments, and it's coming from all sides, right? It's coming from all sides. People just want somebody who's willing to work with the governor, who's willing. And a lot of people say the governor needs to go as well, right? They call what do they call him? Tater tot. They're saying that he needs to go as well. But since we're here, and like Congressman Bennie Thompson says, you cannot just not talk to those who are in charge. what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? You have to communicate. I remember, if I'm not mistaken, where there was a press conference. And instead of the mayor showing up to the press conference held by the governor, he held his own press conference. And I like to tell people the same media you praise and worship is the same media that will tear you down. We talked about this yesterday on the Clay Edwards show. They will love you today and make you pay tomorrow just because of your stance on whatever it is. And I think at that point we were talking about social media. The ones who you think support you now will turn around tomorrow and, crash out on you. But again, let me finish playing Congressman Thompson because he's telling you what he has observed and why he is endorsing John Horhn.
Support of Senator John Horhn is based on his legislative record and the record of the current mayor. I've worked in both instances with both men in their respective capacities, and I'm convinced that John Horhn would be a better mayor for the city of Jackson. Well, first of all, you got to understand, as mayor, you are the principal spokesperson for the city. That means that whether you agree or disagree with individuals, you tell the story. You don't ignore the people who are in charge. Now, if you apply for programs and you're denied based on the fact that you're a Democrat or African American, then you fight. You go to court. You don't just take back and say, well, they're not going to help us. I've spent my whole political career fighting for what's right. So in Washington, if it's housing, if it's health care, if it's transportation, I always vote for those programs. But when it comes down to the state and local level, it's up to those officials to make application for the program. But my record is clear on all those things, and I'm saying there have been opportunities missed by Jackson, especially under the Biden administration, especially when COVID was rampant in this community, that should have been taken advantage of. Bennie Thompson can only vote for those programs, but it's up to the local officials to take advantage of them. On election day, on April 22nd, the billionaire and the homeless person, their vote counts the same. And so the only way you can lose this election is you don't go vote. So I encourage people on April 22nd, go out and cast your vote.
Now, we have, let me put these back up on the screen because these came up while it was playing. And again, I was not paid to play that. This was just giving you the narrative from Bennie Thompson's standpoint. Okay, so Chris Williams out of the Jackson area says Mayor Lumumba will lose, but it's going to be closer than last election because the big church congregations are behind him in full force. Well, that is yet to be determined. And again, Chris, this is the race to watch, honey. Listen, this is the race to watch. We had Fred Chambliss. Okay, I don't know how I got thrown off. Okay, but we got um Fred Chambliss, I know, who weighed in on it while it was going on. And he said, that's what I've been saying. I have been saying. And then he makes another comment. He says, Bennie Thompson is full of crap. And again, you got to remember, not everybody loves Bennie Thompson. But you got to understand that Bennie Thompson has been there, and Bennie Thompson understands what it takes to reach across the aisle and speak to others to get things done. And so we got black people and white people love Bennie. And whether you believe it or not, from what I'm told, guess what they say? The white people keeping Bennie in there. So, you think so? Yes. They love Bennie Thompson. Well, again, this announcement was a shocker. It was a knee jerker. It was, I don't know what. It was shocking to say the least because, again, Shokwe Antar and Congressman Thompson, if I'm not mistaken, they're part of the same fraternity. Finally, somebody steps up and says, care nothing about that. Care nothing about that. Right is right and wrong is wrong. This is my opinion, and I have a right to my opinion. This is who I'm endorsing. Don't care nothing about no who they are. Who they are endorsing. Okay, we got some more people weighing in. Hold on. Fred Chambliss says he never speaks on the corruption at the federal prison in his district. And we have Danielle Holmes says, hold on. She's speaking to Fred Chambliss. She said they love and believe anything Congressman Thompson has to say. Where was Congressman Thompson before this administration? What did he do under the other administrations? Bennie wanted to control Antar and couldn't. That's an ego endorsement. Bennie has never endorsed John Horhn until big money got behind John Horhn. So I guess she's talking about maybe some PAC money. I don't know where the big money is coming from, or what is transpiring in the Jackson area. But Danielle Holmes is weighing in on this topic, saying, "Hey, they believe any and everything Bennie Thompson says." And so I'm just going to paraphrase. She said, "Because Bennie Thompson could control his little frat brother, this is an ego endorsement." I'm just paraphrasing here, but again, to endorse him 1 week before, well, this is the 22nd is when the election is. That speaks volumes, Danielle. It speaks volumes. And so a lot of people have been saying nasty things about John Horhn, but Bennie Thompson has yet to say anything nasty about him. He said, I sat down with him, I heard his vision. He told me what his vision is for the state. And you got to understand that Chokwe Antar Lumumba had the opportunity for 8 years to show and tell. So according to Congressman Bennie Thompson, he's saying, look, you don't just not say we're not going to apply for money under the Biden administration. You don't say that because you got to let them deny you. Let them say no. So according to Congressman Bennie Thompson, you need to go and apply and allow them to reject you, and then you fight. Because based on what I'm hearing him say, there's really no reason to be fighting with the governor, especially under the Biden administration. So he made mention of the Biden administration. I'm wanting to know what the talking heads in the Jackson area will say about this endorsement. It's been eerily quiet in the Jackson area. We want to know what will be said now, because you had a lot of commentators, people saying that John Horhn is not the person. They could care less. And again, it doesn't matter if you're from the Mississippi Delta, if you're from the Pine Belt, if you're from Central Mississippi. Jackson belongs to all of us. Jackson belongs to us all because that's our capital. Now, I've asked questions to CJ LeMaster before. Do you think that they will move the state's capital like they have in history's past? Because Jackson was not the official touchdown headquarters, right, for our state's capital. But since we're here, I'm just curious as to know what and why people um, are doing what they're doing or moving the way that they're moving. Why wouldn't he endorse Showquay Antar? Why is Congressman Bennie Thompson moving the way he's moving? And I wonder if he will be invited back to talk on some of these podcasts and platforms like he has made those appearances before. And you got to understand, I know Danielle made a great point. Um, the people who put the money behind the person, you know, and in this case, I imagine John Horhn has big money based on what I just read from Danielle. Apparently, Horn has some people with big money pushing this endorsement. Um, but you got to remember, again, like I said earlier, and I don't know if you were here to hear that, Danielle, but when you get big endorsements like that, people tend to feel bad for the underdog. And in this case, the underdog is Shokwe Antar Lumumba. And so you get a lot of sympathy votes. Oh, they shouldn't do him like that. You know, this, that, and the third, and blah, 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 blah. Let's see. We got another one. Brittany's back with another comment. She says, Miss Angela, I just love you. I love how you call it straight down the middle. I was introduced to you through the Clay Edwards show. I'm a millennial independent, so I agree with the both of you. I don't live in Jackson, but grew up going there because in Simpson County, we always had to go there or Hattiesburg for anything. I just miss being able to go to Jackson. I want to see our capital cleaned up. I have so many fun memories in Jackson. Wow, thank you so, so much. And we have millennials weighing in, people. Listen. And you got to be able to call a spade a spade. You should want to be able to call a spade a spade. Listen to both sides. And Brittany, I consider myself to be an independent as well. Um, and again, history's past has shown us. Check this out. And I said it earlier. I'm recapping and I'm about to go. When David Duke ran in Louisiana, you had the president then, the sitting president of the United States, Daddy Bush, come down and endorse the incumbent instead of endorsing David Duke. And guess what? David Duke won. This is history. This is political history, y'all. You got to learn your history. It went the opposite way of what the major endorsement wanted. It was not favorable for the incumbent, for the president. Okay, it was just not favorable for the president of the United States to get involved. Now, in this case, because you got to remember, it is generally hard to beat an incumbent. Generally, it's hard to beat the incumbent. It really is. And so hold on, we got Fred Chambliss talking to Danielle. He said, hey, that's a great question. Let's see. Again, this thing could go a whole nother way. Because if Shokwe Antar is in a runoff, in my opinion, all he needed was the runoff. Because now he can hit the ground running, boots on the ground, whatever it takes. And I'm hearing Chris say earlier that the churches in the Jackson area, they're behind him for whatever reason. That's probably his base following, right? And we do know that Shokwe Antar's wife, I think her father, his father-in-law, is a minister. Okay. But Bennie Thompson endorsing Horn could pull sympathy votes for Shokwe Antar. people could feel bad for him and say, this is not right. This, they doing this boy like a dog. I'm telling you, the underdog could still come out on top based on history's past and what I've observed. Okay, Chris says, I'd rather give Senator Horhn a chance instead of re-electing Mayor Lumumba. He let his personal feelings and political affiliation get in his way of what's right for the city. And that's what a lot of people are saying. They're saying, listen, listen, listen. There's no way that you could be so upset with the governor that you're not willing to apply for opportunities out there that have been missed, according to Congressman Bennie Thompson. The people spoke on April the 1st, and they're going to have to speak up one more time, Chris. You all have the voting power, right? And we have to just grab the popcorn and see how this is going to actually play out. Again, for those who are tuning in, Congressman Thompson endorses Horhn in Jackson's mayor runoff. And again, there's a quote says, after listening to and discussing with John his vision and plan, I encourage the voters of Jackson, Mississippi to support John Horhn on April 22nd, which is on a Tuesday, in the Democratic primary runoff election. So Congressman Thompson is no longer quiet. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if he got involved and is considered to be the voice of reason in the Greenville election. Right. So, I mean, this thing is something. And again, for the record, for the Greenville election, I am out of it. My candidate did not win. And so when I tell you just being a part of an election will drain you, it really does. You lose sleep. You lose a lot. You are just giving, and it's taxing. And so for me, I'm out of it. I am just watching with my popcorn, letting the chips fall where they may. And on that note, thank you guys so much for tuning in to Mic Check in the Mornings with Angela Buckner. Might come back with Delta Sip because we got some news that we got girl basketball players at Mississippi Valley State University jumping in the transfer portal. And again, those are some strong allegations. I don't know how true it is, but I may be coming back talking about this transfer portal because if that's true, if the young ladies are jumping in the transfer portal, that's not going to look good for enrollment. Also, it is alleged now that the girls are jumping into the portal because the the girls' basketball coach is now back. I don't know how true this is. I got to get some information on that. But they're saying that they're jumping in the portal because they don't want to play for this current basketball administration. I don't know. We're going to see. So I might be coming back on Delta Sip, where we sip slow and talk what we know. And on that note, I got to go.
Medicare. Are you turning 65 or new to Medicare? Part A and B. If so, you may qualify for additional benefits at no cost to you. Are you a veteran with Medicare Part A and B? If so, you may qualify for additional benefits at no cost to you. Call your local licensed professional agent, Juanita Lacey Larry. Don't hesitate. Call her today, 662-515-9414. Your local agent is waiting for you, 662-515-9414. That's Juanita Lacey Larry, 662-515.
The great state of Mississippi is located in the Bible Belt, We're known for forgiveness and second chances. Mississippians love each other. Every day, there's a sense of pride that we feel when we are afforded an opportunity to work and do what we love to do. And down south, we do that to the best of our ability. Mississippi, Ivana Williams is a mother of 4 beautiful children who reside right here in the Bible Belt. Listen with your heart and know that she needs forgiveness and a second chance to experience that sense of pride like everyone else who are willing to work every day for this great state. The Bible says, let any one of you who is without traditional radio is becoming a thing of the past. No need to panic. There's no need to fear. The DMJ Broadcast Ministry of Daryl Moore Jr. is here, ready to help you navigate yourself right into some inspiration, laughter, and motivation. Because after all, it is an inspirational radio station. Allow us to help you get through your night, day, week, month, and the entire year. To get through, call 662-947-1773 or scan the QR code.
What you're doing right now and download the G Wood Live app. It's absolutely free. There's no cost. I'll say it again. It's absolutely free. It's your way to stay connected and stay involved in the community. Download the G Wood Live app on your Apple or your Google Play. Stay connected, stay positive, stay involved. Download the G Wood Live app today.
Rosie's Workshop is a Mike Magazine's official small business choice for Tumblr designs. Place an order with Rosie's Workshop. Don't stress yourself. Rosie can do it. You can't think of a gift to get someone, whether it's a teacher, friend, church member, you name it, you should consider today going to Rosie's Workshop. That's Rosie Blackshire at rosiesworkshop@gmail.com or on Facebook. 662-635-3029. Call today.
The Mike Magazine. Facebook is okay. However, YouTube is way better. Go follow my mom on YouTube.
That's right.
Like, subscribe, get notified. Timothy Buckner here. A voice behind